Hi, Melissa, and everybody. Today we have a How Mom Met Dad story. It's the How Mom Met Dad story for the mom and dad of Kapila. Everybody on this channel probably knows Kapil Raj, the famous YouTuber. He's named after this avatar, Kapila. In Prakrit or common languages, you usually let the final vowel be lazy about the final vowel, so you'd say something like Kapil. But in the proper language, you would pronounce the final vowel, so it'd be Kapila. So now this is the story of Kapila Avatar, and the story starts with the story of their parents. So how mom met dad. Vidura inquired about the descendants of the original Manu successfully created through sexual reproduction. So the backstory is we got up to how Brahma created this and that and this and that and this and that, and finally he created humans, or the god of humans, Manu and Shatarupa, who could produce offspring from themselves in an organic manner, let's say, without magic. And now Vidura wants to know, after hearing that from Maitreya, Vidura wants to know who was born from them. So he asks, how did Swayambhuva Manu's two sons, Privrata and Uttanapada, govern the earth's 7 islands under the rule of morality? This is a curious thing. It's often repeated in the Vedas. Or, I don't know about the Vedas. The 5th Veda, the Purana, often repeats this concept of the earth being a place with 7 islands, which is interesting because these days we consider 7 continents. Whether or not they're talking about the same thing, I haven't really figured it out. But anyway, it's quite interesting. Manu's famous daughter, so he asked about the 2 sons, now he's going to ask about the daughters. The first one, the most famous. Manu's famous daughter, Devahuti, married Kardama. Kardama was a great yogi, and Devahuti also possessed all the yogic perfections. So I'm very interested to hear about their children. So he particularly wants to know about Devahuti and how she married Kardama and the children that they had because they were great yogis. I would also like to hear about the children of Manu's other daughters, the wives of Ruchi and Daksha. Maitreya now begins his reply with the story of Devahuti and Kardama. He's going to start with the one that Vidura wants to hear the most, which is not good marketing, right? You're supposed to put the most desirable thing towards the end. But Maitreya is not a marketer, and he's also the most interested to talk about the Devahuti and Kardama and their kids, because it leads to Kapila, because they're great yogis. So now, here it begins. The story of how mom met dad for Kapil begins with Kardama's darshan of Vishnu. The particular kind of Vishnu, the particular manifestation of Vishnu that Kardama perceives is known as Shukla, which means white. So here's the story. Long ago, during the purest eon, so remember every eon has a name. The eons are if I remember right, if I remember correctly, the eons are the cycles of 1,000 quad yugas. And each eon has a name, basically named by the character of the eon. So there's one that's called purest. And during that eon, Brahma had ordered Kapila to make children. Brahma had ordered Kardama to make children. So Kardama is one of the sages that Brahma created before Manu, right? So Brahma had asked him, look, I created you to make children, so please make the children. So what did Kardama do? He prepared himself to be a good father. This is a good basic lesson for people. Before you become parents, you should become good people. So since he was ordered to make children, he first wanted to make sure he was capable as a husband and a father. So he went to perform discipline on the bank of Saraswati River for 10,000 years to prepare for the active lifestyle of being a husband and a father with profound spiritual realization. So he to 10,000, because it's the active lifestyle is more difficult. To be a spiritualist in an active lifestyle is in some ways more difficult than in an inactive lifestyle. So you have to, unless you carry into the active lifestyle your conceptions and paradigms and realizations from your inactive meditation. So that's what he did. First, he wanted to get the paradigms and concepts and experiences from meditation and yoga that would enable him to be on point in the active, engaged in the world lifestyle that he was about to do as a family man. His discipline consisted of devotional service to Hari Bhakti, who gives benedictions to those who take shelter from him. It was a wise choice. He figured, let me do disciplines. I don't know if it's a choice, but I'm just making kind of a tongue-in-cheek statement here. Probably is not a choice, but this is a natural inclination. But a tongue-in-cheek thing, it's a wise choice, because if you're going to do a discipline, and there's one discipline that you get rewarded from, you get rewards as well as your endeavor, then you do that one. As the others is just the endeavor. So he did a Hari Bhakti because Hari gives benedictions to those who strive for him. Indeed, in reward for Kardama's devotional discipline, the lotus-eyed all-attractive was pleased to benedict Kardama with a direct audience, Sakshat Darshan. So Kardama attracted Vishnu's attention by his bhakti yoga, by his loving discipline towards bhakti, by his devotional attitude, by his devotional practice. That's what happens. You attract a person that you're devoted to. So Kardama's bhakti was so real that it actually attracted Vishnu. And Vishnu gave what's called Sakshat Darshan, which means direct, in-person, face-to-face audience. And Kardama could literally see the transcendent form heard and worshipped in his mantra. So that's the perfection of the mantra. Christianity is a mix of, it's not really a yoga, it's a religion, hermit. And it's like every religion, it's a mix of karma, jnana, and bhakti. So let's see, the benediction is the fruition of the mantra. The fruition of the mantra is that you should be able to directly experience it. So since he was doing Vishnu mantra, the benediction came from Vishnu that, okay, this mantra that you're meditating on to contemplate me, here it is, here I am. And now here's a description of the darshan. Kardama saw Shukla Hari, brilliantly white as the sun, with glossy, thick, sapphire black hair framing his lotus-like face. He was decorated with a resplendent necklace of lotuses and water lilies, a fulgent cloth, a brilliant crown, and glittering earrings. His forearms held a conch, disc, mace, and a white lily. That's kind of unique amongst the Vishnus. They usually hold lotus flowers. And a white lily which he playfully twirled. The goddess of beauty left a mark on his chest close to the fabled Kaustuba gem hanging on a necklace. His two lotus-like feet stood on the back of Garuda, who hovered in the sky. Stood. Interesting, right? He touched Kardama's thrilled heart with his smiling glances, which made all cherished wishes come true. Kardama's soul, saturated in natural affection for Shukla, inspired him to put his palms together and try to please Shukla with poetic praises. So now Kardama is going to address Shukla. Kardama is Kapil's dad, who has now done his discipline to become, so that he could become a good dad. And now, as the result of the discipline, Vishnu comes right before him. And Kardama says, "My eyes are now perfect, for they have seen you, the sum total of all reality. Yogis aspire lifetime after lifetime to finally achieve the perfect vision I see today. Ital. Your lotus-like feet are the vessel that can carry us across the ocean of temporary existence. Mindless people worship these feet just to obtain fleeting moments of temporary pleasures. You fulfill their desires, but it does not bring them true happiness. And I am one such mindless fool." This is very interesting. Anil asks, how do you know we made Vishnu notice us? Well, maybe he's going to look at Kardama. He has Sakshat Darshan. You get something directly, tangibly real. So now look what he said here. He says to Vishnu, you're the most amazing, blah, 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 you're amazing, you're amazing. Now, people worship you. But most people worship you to get whatever stuff fascinates them. Somebody worships you to get more power. Somebody worships you to get more beauty. Somebody worships you to get more wealth, right? They're very foolish for worshiping you. They're very foolish for worshiping you for things that are temporary. So, and he says, that's me. I'm worshiping you to become a good dad. If I was smart, I would just worship you for you. But I'm worshiping you to become a good dad. Too bad for me that the benediction I'm going to ask from you, which could be anything, which could be to have the ecstasy of your direct company forever. Instead, I'm going to ask to be a good dad. Even though I know that your feet are the infinite root of all things that can grant even the most exquisite benedictions, I foolishly worship them for something rather simple and temporary. And here it is. I wish to marry an excellent wife who has character similar to mine and who could fulfill all my needs as a father. So you often hear stories of worship Katyayani, Durga, to get a good husband. But you seldom hear about who you worship to get a good wife. So you should worship Vishnu to get a good wife, because Vishnu's wife is the best, Shri. Just like you worship Katyayani because her husband is Shiva. For some reason, Shiva is considered a better husband than Vishnu. So that's the deal. So Kardama sets this example here of worshiping Vishnu for a good wife, which he says is foolish in the ultimate picture. Now he says he's going to explain to Vishnu. And then actually, why did this attract Vishnu's attention? It must not be common, like worshiping Vishnu to get a good grade at school or a car. He wouldn't even be able to express what he just said if his heart was actually wrapped up in it. He wouldn't know that there was anything better. So he's going to explain why he's seeking temporary things despite knowing better. He says, Brahma's orders are ropes that bind me like they bind all others. Brahma's orders are ropes that bind me like they bind all others who are conquered and bound by their own desires. Like everyone, I must follow his orders and make offerings unto pure, brilliant, timeless you. We are like animals led by ropes to pasture. So he says, I have to follow my duty because I'm bound. I have desires and I have needs. So I have to follow my duty. So whatever Brahma orders me to do, I have to do that. Otherwise, I generate bad karma. And I don't want bad karma because I have desires. So he ordered me to make children. And he ordered me to worship you. So I'm worshiping you to get good children. We are like animals led by ropes to pasture. Although the duty given to me by Brahma forces me to mingle amongst these animals, I desire better for myself. See, although I am in this category of people that's involved in material activity, I desire more. That's how he knows about more. Like, I'm sorry, where are we? I desire. So eventually, I will give up all this and seek exclusive shelter in the shade of your feet. I will leave the society of animals and become a follower of your devotees, who always share deep draughts of wine words about you, the intoxication of which makes everyone forget all identification with the material world. So he has a nice statement. He says, right now, this is what happens when you're really elevated and your mind is very clear. You can see yourself with your problems. And it's not really the same as seeing your problems. It's seeing yourself with your problems. and you can foresee that that you have these problems, you better deal with them in a good way, and that at some point you'll be free of these problems. So this is what Kardama seems to be at. See, it's not Bardo. It's not selfish worshiping that got him. Kardama is not a selfish worshiper. He's elevated beyond that. But he's still engaging in the duty because he's still trying to get, he can see his practical needs, so he's tending to them, but his ambition is on the highest thing. Kardama now explains why he extolled Hari's devotees, but denigrated his own exalted status as a universal forefather and direct child of Brahma. He is a super god and a direct child of Brahma, literal creation of Brahma, by Brahma directly. Why is he making himself seem low and Hari's devotees seem high? So he says, the wheel of time spins on the axle of eternity. That is awesome, isn't it? The wheel of time spins on the axle of eternity. Its hub is made of 3 meta-seasons. 3 groups of 4 solar months associated with air, earth, fire, and water. Do you hear this? So this is the description of the zodiac. The wheel of time is the zodiac. It spins on the hub of eternity, but the eternity is not a part of it. Eternity is what it's based on. Time is a wheel that spins on eternity. And the hub on which it spins is got these 3 seasons, universal seasons or meta-seasons. 3 groups of 4 solar months associated with air. So in other words, you take Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, that's one section of the hub. And then you take Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, that's the next section of the hub. And then Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, that's the 3rd section of the hub. Earth, water, fire, air, one section. Earth, water, fire, air, another section. Earth, water, fire, air, another section. Gandanta, Gandanta, Gandanta. No mention of nakshatras. This is where the Gandanta thing is important. The wheel of time spins on the axle of eternity. Its hub is made of 3 meta-seasons, 3 groups of 4 solar months. The solar months are the signs. Air, earth, fire, and water. From this hub radiate 12 or 13 spokes made of the lunar months, 12 or 13. Because it's actually a bit more than 12 and a little bit less than 13. But we idealize it as 12. From the hub spring 12 or 13 spokes made of the lunar months. They connect to the wheel's rim. What's on the rim? The rim is composed of 6 actual seasons. Spring, hot, wet, autumn, cold, and frozen. No, it's not 13 zodiac signs. There's 12 zodiac signs. NASA astronomers think that there's a 13th constellation on the ecliptic, which is true, but who cares? The zodiac signs are not constellations. The zodiac signs are solar months. There's 12 solar months, but it's a little bit more than 12. So occasionally you'll need to adjust something to sync it up. And then you have the 6 classical Vedic seasons. It's not exactly like our 4 seasons that are the modern ones. My leg fell asleep. Basically, what you do to understand the 6 season concept is make the spring and fall a little bit shorter than you're used to. Make it 2 months instead of 3. And the part where you usually starts your spring or fall is actually the middle of the spring and the fall. And then that's going to make your summer and winter longer than you usually think of. So you split them in half and you have a pre-summer and then a deep summer and a pre-winter and a deep winter. And that's how you get your 6 seasons. So each season is 2 zodiac signs. Yes, that's what the leap year is. Well, Sean, yeah, I believe so. So the rim is composed of 6 seasons, and on this rim there's 360 joints. of lunar days, 360 days. And then the outer edge is infinite moments, like all the amshas. Can go down as far as you want to divide them. There's infinite moments. The whole wheel rolls with terrible speed, each revolution crushing another year into the ground. It's a wheel, it's rolling. Every time it spins around once, you get a year passes. And it rolls with terrible speed. Each time it spins, it crushes a year into the ground. As it chases everyone and everything in the universe. No one can escape it. Not Brahma's children, not even Brahma himself. But this wheel seems to have no significant effect on your devotees who are intoxicated by hearing about you. Miss Vinay, Sean is saying, I don't know what he's saying, but I think he's asking are they saying that the three sections of the hub composed of earth, water, fire, air, is it starting with Aries and ending with Cancer and then starting with Leo? Probably, because that's where we think of it. They didn't specify. The text here doesn't specify. So that was very interesting. Super interesting, right? Out of nowhere, all of a sudden you got one of these. This type of description of zodiac is actually the type of description that you'll see in Rig Veda. This is basically word for word a Rig Veda description of the zodiac. Now, it just kind of popped out of nowhere, but it's super interesting. Well, what he's saying is that karma crushes everybody. Karma changes everything, recycles everything, and what's the point of pursuing things that are on this wheel of karma? The devotees of Hari, they exist in a way that the things that they enjoy and are connected to aren't a part of this turning wheel. Kardama explained why he could not turn to anyone else to fill his temporary needs. So Vishnu says, well, look, I have gods taking care of all this stuff. Why didn't you turn to them? Bardo throws up this awesome hypothetical question. How do we know that Bhagavatam is not a masterpiece of the human mind, which is also always rationalizing reality post hoc, but reality itself might have no purpose? I mean, first of all, if you think reality itself has no purpose, you just haven't experienced reality. Just clear your mind and experience what you actually are. But second of all, if Bhagavatam is a masterpiece of the human mind, then who cares? That's awesome. It's the greatest masterpiece of the human mind. That makes it less important. All right, now, Vishnu is thinking, okay, generally speaking, for material rewards, you should worship regular gods. So why did you come and worship me? So Kardama is going to explain that now. He says, who else is there but you? You alone exist without a second. You alone create everything by your desire through your original potencies. You, the all-attractive, expand, maintain, and withdraw all of reality just as a spider does with its webs. So what he's saying is, yeah, I guess I could go to somebody else to get a good wife, but why would I? You are the essence and the power in every being, so why wouldn't I go directly to you? Now he talks about creation, maintenance, and destruction as if it's a spider putting out a web, keeping it out, and then eating it back up. So now he's going to explain that analogy in more detail. It's amazing how fast this time goes. Kardama explained why Hari expands this web-like world. Master, he said, it is not for your sake that you used your inner potencies to manifest the perceptions and emotions of the world. You did it for our sake, to fulfill our delusional desires. But you affectionately allow your creation to reveal your all-attractive self, embraced by loving Tulsi. Perceiving you, we lose interest in pursuing the independent ambitions that are the root cause of all the three worlds. I constantly offer my respect to your worshipable lotus-like feet, which fulfill even the insignificant desires of insignificant people like me. So why does the world manifest, this world manifest? Kardama says it's not, this is not your world. You make this world for people like me who have independent desires from you and delusional desires. But because you're so affectionate, you still show up in this world. Because if you show up and people turn their attention to you, they can get out of their delusions about what brings actual happiness. Now, let's get Shukla's reply. Yeah, we'll probably get up to this section. There's really good stuff in here. I love the way, I might try to do the whole chapter. I love the way the father deals with Kardama. Okay, now Shukla Hari is going to respond to Kardama. Thus honestly and sincerely glorified, the one whose navel sprouts a lotus replied in words as sweet as nectar, shining atop Garuda with a smiling face and expressive eyebrows. Neil, not exactly. You aren't delusional because you're created to be so. We're delusional because it's possible to be delusional. But we're not created to be delusional. Long ago, I understood your heart, Shukla said. That's beautiful. Right before you did any of this stuff, I already knew what you wanted, what you are. Long ago, I understood your heart. I knew why you were controlling yourself and worshipping me. I have already arranged to grant your wishes. I've known about your wishes for a long time, and I've already made all the arrangements. O progenitor, worship of me shall never come to naught when the worshipper like you embraces me so sincerely with heart and soul. The forefather's son, Brahma's son, Emperor Manu, is a famous good soul, learned in all moral principles. He rules this world of 7 seas. O learned man, he will come here with his queen the day after tomorrow to see you. This is like my great-grandmother on my mother's side. She went to a fortune teller to see if she should go back to Italy or if she would meet somebody to marry her in America after she rejected the guy who sponsored her. And the fortune teller said, yeah, as soon as you walk out this door, a man with a sweater will bump into you on a bike, marry that person. So it's something like the Shukla Hari is telling Kardama, tomorrow, what do you say, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow? The day after tomorrow, Emperor Manu and his queen are going to come to see you. You'll marry his daughter. I already arranged it. He is looking for a husband for his grown-up daughter whose eyes are deep indigo and whose character is extremely meritorious. She wants to marry you, so he will ask you to become her husband. That was quick, right, Miss Vinay? Because he already knew from the beginning. All these years your heart has been hoping for her. She is the princess who will bring fruition to all your desires. With your seed, she will bring forth 9 daughters who will become wives, bringing children to all the sages. 9. How many forefathers are there? There's 10. So he's going to create wives for all the rest of the 4 progenitors. Thus you will completely fulfill your father's request and become purified by my grace. Dedicate all your endeavor to fulfilling your duty, then you can come to me. Your duty is to be compassionate and helpful towards anyone who is in need, and to ensure that those who seek spiritual enlightenment have no worldly concerns or fears. This is your duty. Be compassionate and helpful to anyone who is in need, and try to ensure that those who seek spiritual enlightenment have no worldly concerns or fears. That's what you do as a grihastha, as a family. If you have a house and stuff, you have to take care of people, and you have to make sure that people who are seeking enlightenment don't want for food and shelter and clothing. By this you will see that everything in the world, even yourself, is a part of me. Try not to have a separate conversation because you'll miss this. O great scholar, an expansion of a fragment of myself will sprout from your seed, planted in the field of your wife, Devahuti. In that form, I will explain the science of reality. So he just dropped a huge bomb. He said, you're going to have 9 daughters with this wife, and then Brahma's going to be thrilled with you because you're going to enable the progeny of the universe to just explode, which is exactly what Brahma wants. And the 10th child will be me. I'm going to be born as your son. And I'm going to be born as your son in order to explain science, Sankhya. I'm going to explain the science of reality. After saying all this, the all-attractive left that place. A lake named Bindu. You may have known this Bindu Sarovar. A lake named Bindu because it is like a beautiful drop in the Saraswati River. Kardama watched him leave, riding on the back of Garuda. In the fluttering feathers of whose wings the songs of the Samaveda resounded. So when Garuda flaps his wings, you can hear the Samaveda mantras. And he watched this bird flying off, producing these Samaveda mantras with carrying Vishnu. And as he watched this, he thought to himself, he is the very pathway to perfection. All perfected souls glorify him. Now, got a day after, you got 2 days. You got a day, basically, and then the next day, this stuff's going to happen. So let's see it. And we'll get to the end of the chapter. After Shukla left, the blessed sage Kardama waited for the moment Shukla had foretold. Meanwhile, Manu got into his golden-plated chariot with his daughter and wife and began traveling throughout the land. On the day foretold by the all-attractive, they reached the ashram of that scholar who had completed his disciplines. They came to that place where drops of tears fell from the eyes of the all-attractive when he was overtaken with compassion for someone who had eagerly and wholeheartedly sought his refuge. Those tears fell into that lake, which had originally formed by the floodwaters of Saraswati River. That's why the waters of that lake are the most sacred and auspicious elixir, respectfully worshipped by all the greatest sages. That's also why it's called Bindu. Bindu is a teardrop. This lake was decorated with peacocks, birds, and auspicious animals wandering amidst clusters of wonderful trees and vines, which gave fruits and flowers in every season. The king, the emperor, is seeing this nature as he comes up to the ashram. Delighted flocks of birds sang, delighted bees buzzed, delighted peacocks danced proudly, delighted cuckoos called out to one another. They all adorned trees of Kadamba, Champak, Ashok, Karanja, Bakula, Asana, Kunda, Mandara, Kurtaja, and Mango. On the lake itself, many types of swans, cranes, birds, and ducks sweetly sang. Have you ever heard a swan sing? Very quiet. On the shores wandered many types of deer, boars, porcupine, wild cows, elephants, many types of monkeys, and even lions. When the earth's original rulers entered the most sacred place with their daughter, they saw the scholar seated there, having just finished his rituals with the sacred fires. His body was shining. Despite having practiced extreme disciplines for a very long time, he was not emaciated, for he had just received affectionate glances from the corners of the eyes of the all-attractive and had drank the nourishing nectar of his words. Typically, if you do extreme yoga for 1,000 years, you're not going to be in good physical appearance. Your hair will be a mess, your body will be coated in dirt, and you'll be skin and bones. So Shukla obviously didn't want that type of person to be getting married. So by his glance, he brought Kardama back to a fully nourished state. So when the chariot came up, they didn't see this emaciated yogi. They saw a beautiful young man. Now the sage stood up. The sage stood up to welcome the guests. He was tall, and his eyes were large, like lotus petals. He seemed like an unpolished jewel because his hair was matted and his clothes were old and torn. The king, a god among men, stopped at a distance from the sage's thatched hut. This is still kind of a aspect of culture, and I didn't really know about it until I moved to Japan. People are reluctant to drive all the way up to the front door of a place. They park their car at a distance and then they walk up because of humility. They don't want to arrive in a big vehicle. So the same way the emperor didn't drive his chariot all the way up right in front of Kardama. It's too pompous. They stopped the chariot at a distance and then walked up after paying respects. So see the mutual respect. Kardama is giving respect to the emperor as just the fact that he's a guest to his ashram. And the emperor is giving respect to the sage. After welcoming and seating the king with honor, the sage fell silent, lost in remembering the words of the all-attractive. This is the fun part. I get a kick out of this one. So the thing is, Kardama now, he gets verklempt because he's actually a Shuddha Bhakta. His heart is really on worship of Vishnu, and he doesn't really want to get involved in the material process. But because he's a Shuddha Bhakta, he's doing it out of devotion, out of duty. So at this point, right as it's on the precipice of beginning to happen, he kind of spaces out and just starts to think about Vishnu. And the emperor is going to respond very humorously to this. So he sits the emperor down, and then he just sits there and drifts off. And then after some time, he finally speaks with a very gentle, sweet voice. Doubtlessly, O godly one, you travel through the land to ensure that spiritualists are well protected and destroy any sprouts of wickedness. So the sage is saying to the emperor, of course, I'm not surprised that you're here. Part of your duty as a king is to travel around and meet all the sages and make sure that everything is safe for them and everything is good for them. Give them anything that they need. So it's not surprising that you're here. It's not something weird, right? You are Hari's power of protection. You are as majestic as the sun, as famous as the moon, as invincible as Agni, fire, as lordly as Indra, as ever-present as Vayu, air, as righteous as Yama, as sheltering as Dharma, and as deep in wealth as Varuna. Through you, I offer my respects to Hari. If you did not ride your bejeweled, all-conquering chariot, if the fearsome sound of your bowstring did not resound, if the feet of your soldiers did not quake the earth, it would be as if the sun never rose. All the thieves and evils of the night would overrun the world, engineering the destruction of all the social and spiritual standards designed by the all-attractive. If you lie down to rest, rogues will seize control of the world. Their uncontrollable greed will nourish immorality, which will quickly destroy everything. We didn't get to it. Although the heroic reason for your traveling is therefore obvious, let me nonetheless ask why you came here. Whatever you want, we will do wholeheartedly and sincerely. So Kardama's kind of beating around the bush and playing a bit of a game. Shukla told him, the day after tomorrow, the emperor's going to come to your ashram with his wife because his daughter wants to marry you and he's going to come to ask you for marriage. Now the emperor comes and Kardama says, I think you're just here to check on me, right? There's nothing strange, right? Let's keep going. I want to read you this. After glorifying the emperor's incomparably excellent qualities and deeds, the scholar became silent. Embarrassed, the emperor began to reply. Brahma created you and your brothers, he said, as expansion of his own mouths. Thus you are full of Vedic mantra, endowed with discipline, learning, and spirituality, and averse to debauchery. To protect you, he then created us from the 1,000 arms of the 1,000-legged universal being. You see, we are the kings. You are the Brahmanas. First he created you guys from the mouth, the speakers, the sound makers, the word givers. Then he created us, the arms, the protectors, the holders, the distributors. So my duty, my essence, my dharma is to protect you, just as your duty, your essence, your dharma is to teach me. You spiritualists are like the thoughtful heart of that universal beings, and we kings are like his arms. It seems that we spiritualists and kings protect one another, but in truth we are both protected by the inexhaustible divinity who is the original cause and effect. Meeting you has destroyed all my confusion, for you have blessedly, affectionately, and generously described the duties of kings. Blessed sages, it is my great fortune to be able to see you. For you to prefer to keep yourself hidden away from base materialists like me. It is my greatest fortune that my head can touch the auspicious dust of your blessed feet. Greater still is my fortune that a great person like you would compassionately instruct me. And greatest of all is the fortune that my ears were wide open to fully hear your pure words. My heart is concerned. Now he's going to get to the subject. My heart is concerned for my daughter, who I dearly love. O scholar, please graciously hear my poor plea. My daughter, the sister of Privrata and Uttanapada, was searching for a husband of the right age, with the right character, qualities, and so on. When Narada told her about your character, erudition, beauty, age, and qualities, she finally, firmly made up her mind. O best among the learned, I hope you will reciprocate her feelings and accept my faithful offer. She is like you in every way and would perfectly carry out all your household duties and affairs. What to speak of those? This is the part that I like. This part is this next thing, that's very beautiful. I don't know what's up with my leg today. This part that's very beautiful. So you got to hear a couple of important things. How an arranged marriage is arranged. This is how it's arranged. The daughter decides, I told you this before, but now you see another example of it. The daughter decides who she wants to marry, tells the dad to go get him. That's an arranged marriage according to the Vedas. And the basis on which the woman selects the husband includes things like how he looks, if he's the right age, and his character is very important. If the characters match. There's no astrology involved. Nobody did anybody's chart. It doesn't say that Narada described his nakshatra or the configuration of his Venus and seventh lord. Also, you can kind of see Narada. Narada is born from Brahma's desire for companionship, and he loves to make matches. He matches people together a lot. So he heard that Devahuti was looking for a husband, so he went to her and he said, Kardama would be perfect for you. So that's beautiful. And you can also see the dad is a little worried. Oh no, my daughter fell in love with a sannyasi. My daughter fell in love with a yogi. These people, sometimes they never marry. My daughter might be in for a lot of pain. So he's asking this sage to please consider marrying his daughter. Now he's going to give this cool kind of, it's almost like an ultimatum or something. It's very interesting what he says next. This is the part that I really wanted to share with you today. He says, maybe I'll leave you at this part. What to speak of those who do have desires? Even those who are totally free from desire should not reject pleasures that come unsought. This is a really interesting concept from the king. The king is expressing this Vedic concept of dharma. And the reason why he's telling Kardama is a sage, a very, very developed sage. He's not going to be riddled with material desires. He's not itching and passionate to find a wife. So he's bringing this point up. He says, I know you have no desires, and everybody knows that people who have desires, they're gonna jump at the chance to win a lotto or something. But even somebody who doesn't have desires should accept a lotto if they win it. Even if you don't have desires, you may not pursue materialistic things, but if materialistic things come to you, you shouldn't reject them. What to speak of those who do have desires? Even those who are totally free from desires should not reject pleasures that come unsought. And here's why. Those who reject such things later wind up begging shamelessly for them, foolishly ruining their honor and reputation. So he's kind of cautioning the sage in a sort of a passive-aggressive way not to reject his offer. What he's basically saying is, to put it in like a modern terms, he's like saying, like, yo, my daughter's off the hook. She's qualified in every way. You might think that you're like, Superman and you're beyond the need for a woman like this, but that's really dumb. If you go play that game, you're just going to come back next year and smack yourself over the head with a brick, wishing that you accepted my offer, but it's going to be gone by that time. So don't miss this chance. That's what he's telling him. And it's a very interesting concept. If you are like some kind of elevated spiritualist and you get the opportunity to get some kind of material reward and you pass it up, most likely you're not quite elevated enough that the possibility of that thing would plant a hook of a desire for it in your mind, and then the desire is going to grow and grow and grow over the next few years, so that in a short amount of time you're going to be wishing that you took that opportunity a year ago, and then you're going to ruin your whole life trying to recreate the opportunity. So why sage? I heard that the reason why you're doing your yoga is to become a good husband. So there's really no reason for you to reject this offer. Why sage? I've heard that you are prepared to get married. You did not take a vow of permanent celibacy. So please accept my offer. I don't feel like stopping. The sage replies, yes, I do desire an excellent wife, like your chaste daughter. Phew. The two of us are perfect for each other. Let's have a proper marriage ceremony. So that it's very nice, actually, that he doesn't try to drag her into sage life. He says, let's have a proper marriage ceremony that will satisfy both the kingliness of your upbringing and the Spartanness of my upbringing. So let's have a proper marriage ceremony so that her desires will be blessed by the Veda. Who would not fall in love with her? Her beauty seems more lustrous than the jewels she wears. When the king of angels, Vishvavasu, remember you heard about Vishvavasu, the primary Gandharva. When the king of angels heard the tinkling of her ankle bells and looked upon her playful eyes as she ran about playing with a ball on the roof of your palace, he became completely bewildered and stunned by her beauty. Staring at her, he lost his balance and fell from his aircraft. So Devahuti is famous for being so beautiful that the king of angels lost his balance and fell off his ship when he saw her. All women dream of being as wonderful as she is. Those who are not blessed to serve the feet of the goddess of beauty are unfit to even look upon her, the beloved daughter of Manu and sister of Uttanapada. What wise man would not reciprocate with her respectfully should she approach? So, I promise to share my life with the saintly woman while she bears children from my seed, but... This is a but. So, I promise to share my life with the saintly woman while she bears children from my seed. So, for some time, I will be her husband and give her children. But when that period is done, when the fertility period is done, after that, I will retire alone to pursue the lifestyle of the very best spiritualists. So just let this be known up front, that this is the life I have planned out for myself. I'm not going to stay in the household for the rest of my life. When I hit 50, I'm doing Vanaprastha. I'm going to the forest, and I'm a Brahmana Paramahamsa, so I'm going to do it in the most strict way. So she's not going to be following. So if she's okay with that, then let's do this. So, but after that, I will retire alone to pursue the lifestyle of the very best spiritualist, the most praiseworthy path defined by the Supreme, the exact antithesis of hatred. The exact antithesis of hatred is Vishnu. My father ordered me to have children. Once I fulfill that order, I will fulfill the order of my father's father, Vishnu, from whom this entire amazing world comes, into whom it retracts, and upon whose power it now exists. He, the infinitely all-attractive, is my ultimate authority. Kardama said this much and not much more, for he became overwhelmed with the memory of Hari. He smiled from that memory, and that smile captivated Devahuti's heart. Manu asked his queen and his daughter for their final confirmation, and, receiving it clearly, granted his delighted daughter to the sage, whose endless host of fine qualities was equal to hers. Devahuti's mother, Empress Shatarupa, affectionately gave very valuable wedding gifts to the bride and groom, including household utensils, clothes, and decorations. Emperor Manu was relieved to have given his daughter to a good husband, but nonetheless his heart was beleaguered with sadness. So he embraced her tightly in his arms. Unable to bear the thought of leaving her, he became drenched in tears. "O mother of my child," was all he could say, and he dried as she dried his tears with her hair. There you go, emotional moment. So, after this, you'll find out about the marriage. What happens next? Let's finish the chapter. Finally, the emperor asked for permission to leave, and the great scholar Kardama granted it. Mounting his chariot with his wife, they departed with their followers to return to their own city. They traveled along the tranquil Saraswati River, whose two beautiful shores were wealthy with the ashrams of many sage families. When his citizens heard news of his return, they joyfully came out to greet their protector with music and songs of praise. His city, named Barhishmati, the Palace of Light, was full of all wealth. It was built where the hairs of the boar had fallen when he shook his body. Those hairs became the evergreen kusha and kasha grasses, which the sages used to worship him after he defeated the disruptor of sacrifice Hiranyaksha. So here you just have a little reference to what a kusha and a kasha grass is. Some people like Arjun pie and stuff, sometimes they make some glorification of kusha grass. It's a very important kind of grass. The reason why it has such power and is sacred is because it's actually the boar, the hair from the boar. When he shook his body and the water went flying everywhere, some hairs went flying off. And they landed in some spot of the sea and went onto the earth and then became this type of grass. And that's where Manu chose to build his palace, where that grass originated. Blessed Manu made a fan of kusha and kasha grass and worshipped Varaha, who had delivered the world into his care. Then he entered the great city. So how would you worship Varaha if he's not there? That's through Murti. You'd make a statue. Then he entered the great city Barhishmati and returned to his palace, which conquers the three miseries. He shared all his opulence and happiness with his wife and citizens, always careful to never displease or dishearten others. At dawn, celestial singers would sing of his virtuous deeds, but his heart was always much more drawn towards hearing the virtuous deeds of Hari. The opulence and enjoyment which easily bewilders ordinary people couldn't distract or confuse Swayambhuva Manu, who was as deeply absorbed in yoga as any scholar could be. Even scholars would ask questions to the king, who would explain the intricacies of morality for the eternal welfare of humanity and all living beings. Last paragraph. So somehow you're just getting a fast forward through the life of King Swayambhuva Manu. Up till the very end of his life, he never wasted time. He always heard about, thought about, spoke about, and facilitated discussions about Vishnu That's how he spent his life, which lasted for 71 cycles of the 4 aeons. By always remaining connected to Vasudev's all-attractive son, at the end he transcended all 3 destinations: heaven, hell, and earth. Of course, all throughout his life he was completely untouched by the 3 miseries that plague all humans. 3 miseries? The miseries that arise from body, mind, and fate. Such things cannot touch those for whom Hari is everything. I don't know, Bardo, it's too difficult to chase you around. I'm going to make you chase me a little bit. If you're worried if you have conceptions or misconceptions, then just listen more closely. Well, and you came at the end, or were you here the whole time? This was a great stream. We heard about the mom and dad of Kapila. So they finally got married, and tomorrow we're going to hear their marriage life. We covered 2 chapters today. It's pretty awesome. Thank you, Samantha. Yeah, actually, I was thinking the same thing. Like, there's only one good thing about Mondays now is that the Bhagavatam stream starts again. All right, we're late, so see you guys later.